Clones. We've all got them. Even I, being the quasi-ecologist, have a clone, and I've actually invited mine onto this special episode to help me present, so please give a warm welcome to my clone, Ken the buasi-ecologist.
Hello.
It's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
You may have heard of a sheep named Dolly that was cloned in the late 1900s. Specifically the year 1996, which is a year before I was born, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a made-up year.
Headlines around the world ran a story that the first clone in history had been produced, but it's more accurate to say that this was the first clone to be produced by humans.
Deep in the deserts of southern North America lives the whiptail lizard. There are several species of whiptail lizard, but this species, as well as about a third of the other species, are unique in the animal kingdom. Their population is entirely female. It's time to explore the world of reproduction, and it's gonna get intimate. A few populations in the whiptail lizard family have a particularly unique ability. They can viably reproduce without the need for males at all. This process is called parthenogenesis, and we'll explore how it works in different populations of animals, but first we have to understand how it actually works in the first place, starting with birds. Parthenogenesis is a very rare occurrence, and has been observed in several species, including birds, such as pigeons, chickens, condors, and turkeys.
I'm so excited to talk about turkeys, dude.
What?
I said I'm so excited to talk about turkeys.
Hey, buddy, how about we try keeping those thoughts inside our heads for the rest of the video? How does that sound?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Birds who can reproduce with parthenogenesis without males can also breed the stock standard way, with males. This parthenogenesis requires a slight alteration to the normal process of creating and fertilizing eggs. Let's explore how this works with
turkeys.
Yeah. So, birds, as well as most animals, have two sets of chromosomes. Cells that have two sets of chromosomes are called diploid, and the chromosomes exist in pairs. For context, most humans have 46 chromosomes, which is 23 pairs.
Turkeys have 82 chromosomes, 41 pairs.
That's true, yes. In contrast to
turkeys are better than humans.
In contrast to diploids are haploids, which are cells with only one set of chromosomes. Haploids are normally the reproductive cells that are used to produce offspring, so an egg cell will have one set of chromosomes, and it meets a sperm cell, which will have another set of chromosomes.
And when a mummy haploid and a daddy haploid love each other very much, these two haploids will come together to make a diploid, and congratulations, you have the miracle of insemination.
We're going to keep using the example of a turkey here, as the male turkey has 82 chromosomes and the female turkey has 82 chromosomes. So, if you want to produce an offspring that also has 82 chromosomes, both partners need to cut the number of chromosomes they pass into their respective reproductive cells in half. Just so we're all following the maths here, they both need to pass on 41 chromosomes, which means each parent will pass on one chromosome from each pair in the child's diploid. There is a process for this in males, but we're going to focus on the process in females. In females, one chromosome from each pair is selected through a process named meiosis. Meiosis is the process where a cell gets divided twice, and a random selection of half the chromosomes are left in the mature egg cell, meaning that this is now a haploid cell because it only has one set of chromosomes, and it is waiting to meet that other haploid cell, in this case a sperm cell, with another set of chromosomes, and together they'll create a diploid cell with the full two sets of chromosomes, and therefore a living creature.
The leftover chromosomes that don't make it into the creature are contained in what we call polar bodies, which are normally either ejected or absorbed by the body.
The egg will then sit there, waiting to be fertilized by a sperm, and it will not begin development into an embryo without this, unless you can figure out a way to get around the sperm requirement to activate the egg. You could do this through physical or chemical means.
Or maybe you're the kind of bird that lays eggs in response to a hormonal signal, like a turkey.
Yeah, he's right. Some animals can, in rare cases, get around this problem and will activate the eggs without any sperm input, like turkeys. Once the egg is activated, the animals are now left with an egg with only half the required chromosomes. There may be more ways of fixing this, but we're going to look at two methods that different animals use, and we're going to explain them in the simplest terms possible. Method 1. The egg reabsorbs the polar bodies, re-adding the rest of the chromosomes that were removed earlier, meaning that the resulting offspring has the same genetic code as the mother, a clone.
Method 2. The animal will actually copy the chromosomes that are in the egg, sort of like how cells reproduce by creating a copy of themselves, but they stop before the part where the cell splits in half.
This makes each pair of chromosomes actually the same genetic information twice, but if you take two offspring that are produced through this method, they could have had different chromosomes depending on what was kept during the meiosis in that egg. The result of this second method is kind of strange because they actually aren't clones of their mother since they only have half her chromosomes, but they're kind of a clone of a randomly selected half of their mother because there's no father DNA involved.
These may not be the only ways, and it kind of looks like most species that can reproduce parthenogenetically tend to evolve unique ways of getting the eggs to this point.
However, parthenogenesis is a very rare occurrence in birds, as well as most animals that can perform it. Generally, animals that can perform parthenogenesis successfully only do so when there are very few males around, except for a condor in captivity one time. The problem here for turkeys, and even more so with the other bird species mentioned above, is that parthenogenesis rarely produces viable offspring. More often than not, even if an egg has been laid and the embryo has begun development, that egg will never hatch.
In the animal kingdom, there are often these adaptations that evolve which neither cause detrimental harm nor give an animal an advantage. So the adaptation just kind of hangs around in some or all individuals of a species.
Or sometimes, animals that used to use an adaptation evolve in a different direction, and they no longer need that adaptation, but it doesn't necessarily disappear. We call these adaptations vestigial traits, and parthenogenesis in birds may or may not be one of them. Or it could just instead be one of those rare occurrences that just sometimes happens and it doesn't work out well.
Given what we know about bird evolution, having evolved from extinct dinosaurs, and given that populations of reptiles can be really good at parthenogenesis, and also depending on your definition of made-up words like bird, dinosaur, and reptile, then maybe some extinct dinosaurs, bridging the gap between reptiles and birds of course, had the ability to reproduce through parthenogenesis, and this ability has actually filtered out as birds evolved. Just a theory.
I feel like maybe you could have said that more succinctly.
I am a god of explaining things, and you are intimidated by my display of prowess.
Oh. Reptiles are better at parthenogenesis than birds, as we know from the whiptail lizards we've already touched on, but there is another, much larger group of animals that have perfected the craft.
Invertebrates.
Honeybees, as well as some other invertebrates, practice a particular kind of parthenogenesis called arenatoky. This means that in a honeybee colony, the queen is the one producing eggs. She has a unique ability to control whether or not these eggs are fertilized by the males who mate with her. Whether or not the eggs are fertilized, not only will they still hatch into fully grown bees, but this process is how the queen creates different sexes. Eggs that are fertilized by the male bees, or drones, become female bees, or workers. Eggs that aren't fertilized become male bees, or drones. Early in a queen's life, she will go on mating flights, where she will mate with roaming drones from other hives, meaning that the female population of the hive has greater genetic diversity, allowing them to be more resilient to issues such as disease.
Drones, on the other hand, are haploids.
They aren't like most other children in the animal kingdom, as they don't have that second set of chromosomes. They inherit only one set of chromosomes from their mother, and they have no father. However, they can mate with another queen's hive on a mating flight and become a father to a hive of females that they will never meet.
Not just because they will live in another hive and never meet their female children, but because honeybee drones die after mating.
It's been said that the mating process for male honeybees is both their primary purpose and their final act. There are advantages to being able to competently perform parthenogenesis for an insect colony. The first is that the colony can choose to produce more workers, depending on the needs of the colony at that time. Another is resilience. While having a hive full of very genetically similar animals that can open up the population to disease, the ability to quickly boost the population at the cost of relatively few resources is a huge advantage to all kinds of other environmental stresses, or simply to create rapid colony expansion.
There is also the fact that reproducing without mating does actually reduce risk of a particular form of disease transmission that is more common in other species.
Don't look at me while you say that. What's wrong with you?
While parthenogenesis in arthropods is more common than vertebrates, there are some vertebrates that just freaking nail it.
The whiptail lizards. Normally, during parthenogenesis, the female animal gives all her genetic material to the offspring. These animals are genetic clones of their mothers, which is an issue because any disease or environmental shift that the mother is vulnerable to, the offspring will also be vulnerable to. This makes parthenogenesis a difficult long-term plan, unless the animal has only one breeding female in charge of a colony, like a honeybee.
Thus, normally parthenogenesis is reserved as an emergency solution to not being able to mate in a season. But the all-female whiptail lizard has developed a solution. Several of these lizards, at some point in their history, crossbred between each other. We'll talk about what the definition of a species is in a later episode, but during this hybridization event, these lizards developed the ability to create twice the normal number of chromosomes during meiosis. This means that rather than one mother giving all her genetic material to her offspring, making them clones, she can, on her own, provide two sets of chromosomes for the process to continue as if there were two parents involved.
Yeah, well put. So this is
it's pretty remarkable, and it's also very surprising.
Right, yes.
And it would be very difficult to recreate for most species, but somehow, through a complete evolutionary chance, these lizards seem to be able to reproduce entirely without the need for males to be involved in the reproductive process.
And so we have a lizard species that are entirely female.
Indeed. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Ken, the buasi-ecologist. This is the Natural World Explored, and until next time, remain inquisitive, companions.
Stop taking my lines!
This is my show now.
These may not be the only ways, and it kind of looks like most parthenogenetically.